Hi, I'm Cheryl Johnson, and this is part 2, School Age, of a video series about assessments and evaluations for deaf and hard of hearing children. We're going to be looking at Module 1 now, that discusses the role of parents and why assessment is important. There are 7 modules in this series. First of all, many times as parents, we think that the assessment is really under the venue of our professionals, and not always recognize how critical our role is. And even for school-age children, what we know about our children and what we see in our children can be very different than what teachers see them when they're at school. So the whole idea of engagement is important for parents to connect with their child and their child's teachers, because those connections help us describe what our values are and our goals for our child. And we use that to guide through the assessment process and the educational programs for our kids. The connections are about building relationships. And we want to develop a trusting relationship with the teachers and other professionals that are working with our child. And we don't have that trust just off the bat when we meet our professionals in our team. So it has to build up over time. And what we want is interactions and connections that will lead to trust and that desire to work together, so we truly are working as a team. Some of building the connections is related to following through on any commitments that we have made, whether it's activities with our children or assessments or interventions, things that the teacher says they're going to do with our child. That follow through is a good piece of evidence about the commitment that we have for each other. Again, that leads to this trust relationship. It's also important that you honestly share what your child is doing and saying. Certainly when kids get into school, they may see their child very differently at home. What I see is children at school oftentimes trying to fit in so well, and they put a lot of energy into communicating with their peers and being part of the classroom and not being different. And when they come home, they're exhausted, and they may show that anxiety with their parents. When those kinds of situations occur, it's very important that we communicate that back with the schools so that we can let them know what our child's doing and saying at home that can reflect on the services they're getting in the school. So why assess? Assessment is so important because it's the foundation for eligibility. It is the foundation for development of the individual educational program, the IEP, and it's the foundation for monitoring progress, the short tests of change that are given with children in the interim during the year when we're implementing the IEP. We want to have checkpoints so that we can identify how a child's doing and the progress that they're making, so that we can make changes without waiting till the annual review that occurs a year later. Some cautions related to assessment. If the assessment is inaccurate or insufficient, it could lead to misdiagnosis, inappropriate services, and ultimately lack of progress. Also, the language deficits that a child has can affect their ability to demonstrate what they know, so we need to make sure that we take those into consideration. Reading deficits may affect performance in math and other areas, again leading to inaccurate assessment. So many of these other areas are dependent on a student's reading skills. And many children, half to 2/3, have some additional learning problems or disabilities that affect their language, communication skills, and academic performance. And to the best that we can, we need to be able to sort out through the assessment process what factors are being attributed to the child's hearing loss and what may be attributed to other problems that they're having.